Okay, folks, we are back like we never left. Episode 14 of the Small Cap Review. As always, let's go ahead and jump into things. So let's get things out of the way. Let's talk GameStop. Let's talk AMC, and let's talk sympathy plays. Before I even get going, if you're tuning into this because you see GME or AMC in the video title, and you're hoping that I'm going to start talking, mother of all short squeezes or fuck the shorts or anything like that, this is not going to be the video for you. So, um, over the last week, GameStop has kind of built a nice daily, and then that paired with a nicely timed tweet by Mr. Roaring Kitty, we got this nice gap up yesterday on Monday, and then just a crazy move in pre-market today. So as you see here, we get the parabolic pre-market. Um, but what do we know about stocks? Easy up, easy down. So once we got up here into these key daily levels, and we can take a look and see, just where we got those from. It's just this big old zone up here from these, pull it so you can see it better, from these upper pivots, these upper wicks that get formed here. Could have made it even bigger if you wanted to. And then this zone right here from these wicks is what I had drawn out going into the day. So in pre-market, when we went all the way up to test these levels, make a double top, and then start kind of bouncing on top of this level, in my mind, this level was key. If we held it at open, maybe we could get more. Um, and if we failed, it was going to bring a lot of stuff with it. You had names like KOSS, plug, TUP, random things that don't even make sense to go with the SPCE, HOLO, just names that were, really riding on the momentum that GameStop and AMC had brought to the market. So, what do you think is going to happen to those names when we get big fails and gap downs out of the gate from not only GME, but also get it from AMC? It's bringing everything else down with it. Pretty much anything I'm going to click over here is going to look like that. TUP had a little bit more of a spike, but then we go down. Holo, down. I mean, that's just how sympathy plays work, and that's why going into the day, it was a little bit trickier because you had to either play names that were not meme names that would potentially have, you have to try to figure out, is the momentum still going to carry over to those names when those names fail, even though they are not direct sympathies like some of these other names we're mentioning, or how exactly that they are going to play out, how the market will react when it is an abnormal day. So that's why for me personally, do not love when this, totally abnormal behavior happens when all these new people, these new ideas are getting brought into the market because things that are tested, things that normally act one way, may start to act another way. But all of that to kind of get to the main point, the best plays today were real plays, real setups, not sympathy plays, not related to GameStop, no mother short squeeze BS. They were actual plays. And that's what we're talking about on this channel, actual plays. So we'll go ahead and get into it. The first one we'll talk about, FFIE. Now, FFIE was a absolutely awesome trader this morning. Let me do this thing where I have to scroll up for a minute on this thing so we can see the daily chart. Come on. It works good, and then you get all this other stuff pulled up and recording, and then it's harder to get this thing sized. Um, so one thing that I will point out as I scroll up endlessly is this was a name that had 96% short float. Now I know that I just said that this stock had nothing to do with GameStop or anything like that, but it does, I guess, have one similarity. In these names, in this theme, one thing that people could be looking for is high short interest names. So that is something to have in mind. We also had a nice day yesterday on the daily volume wise compared to what we previously had seen coming off of all-time lows. So this is one that I had on the thumbnail, kind of on the short list of names I was interested in going into the day. Once it broke over this daily level here from 95 cents, which you can see here, levels on this one super clear to chart out. But once it broke over that level of 95 cents, my thought was You should know what it is. Let's see the low of day and the what? The first 5 minutes. And that's exactly what we get here. We get a dip down. Um, Down here would have been better for me in terms of what I wanted to see. This 86 level that lined up with this pre-market zone, which you actually got here from the very start of pre-market. Um, but we do not quite get a dip there at open. We get it in the pre-market, and then we hold levels, not make any new lows going into the open here. Get a double bottom look on top of VWAP. EMAs never crossed down to the downside, and a nice move off of it. So this is a name that I traded. I was looking for this move here from zone to zone. You know what I like, 20%. And we got a heck of a lot more than that. So this was one straight up, really, if you get in it, there's no way to lose money on this thing today. So I was selling, kind of took some off in here. Of course, looks like that's too soon now, but you never know. And then was able to take most of my profits up here and into this area. So this was a really good trade. I did not get back into the name as we made a secondary move, but we can go ahead and look at that. So this zone up here, where do we get it from? Up here on the daily. Let me pull it out. So we have this bottom wick that came up here and retested to make this daily zone. So a couple areas of interest here, which is why it gets a whole zone drawn out to it. And once we get that tap, like I said, that's my cue to get out, upper wicks into the zone. But then we get this nice move down. This should look very familiar, like we've talked about, the inverse head and shoulders right below VWAP on either side of it, and then the move higher. EMA as a guide, never break it, never, hardly closing below the 8, get one close there, but that's after the top is already in. So really, this entire move, if you're patient, wait for the inverse head and shoulders to appear on top of VWAP, and then we go. No closes under the 8. Easy ride all the way up into upper price targets. Where do you get those from? Up here on the daily chart, bunch of pivots, bang, bang, bang. So, anywhere in this zone could run into some congestion, and that's what we see. That happened here. Highest volume of the day, huge exchange happening. But like we said, day is a little unusual, so things don't always behave like you'd expect. So up here, we're creeping back up towards these highs. Would not be surprised today if we really see some crazy after hours action. I will not be there. I will not be trading it, but I might be watching. So, something to keep an eye out for is just how these things act in after hours. I think we're probably going to get some good uh, short setups tomorrow from these overextended names today. So, um, moving down the list, the other name that I traded today, CTNT. Now this one, um, I'm honestly debating if this was a good play or not. It was definitely a momentum play. It was not as technical of a setup as I would like to trade or I normally would trade, but I'll give you the thesis here. So this is named short chart history. Not a ton of history on the chart and virtually no volume on the chart. If we look at all the volume done before today, 37 million. How much is it traded today? 44 million. So it has literally traded more shares today than it has the rest of the time it has been a stock, which is August of last year. So um, right out of the gate, this thing popped at 928. So kind of an extreme example of what you hear me talk about sometimes where we're talking about, we like late poppers in the pre-market because then it's easy to get that 4-to-1 volume ratio that we look for at the open. So when we, kind of almost filled this entire gap to all-time highs in one candle and then started to pull back to these levels, I was, with the momentum being in the market today, this not being a name that has any connection to any of the meme stocks that were going, I saw that it had 91% insider ownership. I said, okay, I think we can get a squeeze at the open with potential for like a genuinely crazy move on this name, given the volume and given the lack of volume on the history, the entire history of the chart, and the fact that we in pre-market in one candle almost took out the all-time high. So I was definitely bullish on this name, but knew it could be kind of a crazy name. Um, I'm big in terms of looking at the percent a name can run because that's more important to me than it went up $1 or $2 or $3. I care about what percent that is, and I knew that quickly it could have candles. It could go up 50% in two candles. In a couple minutes. So I was really interested in this name, but knew it was going to be a crazy ride. Excuse me. So I knew it was going to be kind of a wild ride. And then I did what I normally do not do. I can't, the more I say this stuff out loud, I definitely broke some rules on here, but I guess part of knowing the rules is knowing when to break them. And as always, I did have my risk in check. If this was going to, this candle, faked out here and went and made new lows, I would have been out. I'm not going to hold for it to come down here and test these, this bottom level because the range was too great on it. If I from the opening price down there, that's 30%. I'm not going to lose 30% on a name. I'm, try not to lose more than 7 to 10% at most on these names. Um, so broke some rules, but risk was in check is the point there. So actually entered pretty much at open entry. Some, I think it was a little bit above 350. It was in between 350, 360, I believe. Um, and so when we get this move down, what do I always say? Strong stocks make low a day in the first 5 minutes. So if this came down and made a new low after 5 minutes, not strong in my book, at least not for the opening move, and I did not want to be part of it. So had the stop set there, um, right below 290, and then nice. It was, thankfully for me, we do get this nice bottom wick off of these daily levels, which come from these pivots here. So once we got that bounce off of these pivots and this move higher, it was doing this thing where it would go up to the upper halt band, run shares on it for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds, but not do the full 10 to lock out. Um, but then the price really wouldn't fade from that level. After the minute was over, the halt band would raise and the price would raise with it. So there's a couple times where it was getting close, and I did sell on that action where it's, hitting the halt band, and then price moves away from it. I sold, most of my shares here, so when we finally did get the halt up, I had maybe like 10% left of what I had, which ended up being okay. I got out the rest here at the very bottom when it was going into the bottom halt band. I got rid of the rest, but kind of a disappointing play out here because I thought, like I said, I mean, can't be too sad when it goes up, what, 60% from the opening price pretty quickly. But I thought it really could have been an explosive move, and to get a good entry down here close to the low of day could have been nice, but that's okay. We take the profits as they become available, and where I find myself getting in trouble is where I don't think the profits are quote unquote enough for me to take. I'm stubborn about not taking it off the table, and then I get caught in a move like this. Price goes against me. I don't want to take a loss because I was already up. Blah blah blah. We've all been there. The psychology of trading. So I'm happy to take the profits where they are available. And then we see here, it never made that new low of day. It held on these levels, held on the levels. Volume really dried up all afternoon. And then we get a nice squeeze out here. And then again, when it's sitting up here on top of, these pivots, I'm like, oh boy, this could do the thing. But again, failure to follow through on that. So still an interesting name. Would not rule it out to stick around for a day or two, or maybe even make that crazy move I was anticipating. Um, but never will force anything, just will be keeping it on watch. Now, another play, like I alluded to at the start, that was a real play, not a gimmick, something that you can use. You could have used it yesterday, you can use it today, you're going to be able to use it tomorrow. Is this day two setup here? I did not trade it. This was the, if I had a regret today, it would have been not trading this one. I'll throw some more obvious lines on here because I'm sure they're going to play out. Oh my gosh. All right. So that's just a little, you know, we have the obvious pivots here, pivot here, and then a bunch of wicks into the zone um, in this last consolidation where it, tries to go up and fails through. So that's where we get this daily zone from. So easy to draw out. And yep, that was in hindsight, but I would have drawn those anyway. These were easy to see. If you do not see those, we're looking for pivots and zones, pivots and zones. So um, with time, if you don't feel like mapping pivots is a strength, practice makes perfect. Go back to the previous runners, map them out, see where it went, find the levels that they correlate to, and you'll be able to get there. But this is not a video about that, so we will keep it rolling. So what is the setup where I'm like, okay, this is a real thing. This is day two, bounce off previous high of day. So even more than day two, this is kind of a continuation play where this is building on the daily. We finally get a volume day yesterday, but we do get some rejection after the open, but the next levels below hold. And that's what we like to see. Pre-market move up above the previous high day, and then we get this move away from it. So only thing that would have made this better is, don't love that pre-market high was directly on top of it. And you see that it tries to act as a force to hold it down. At open, rejects it, excuse me, rejects it, comes down. Don't quite get that tap of the previous high day, but I mean, we are 298 versus 297, so we're a penny away. Um, Holds VWAP, holds positively stacked EMAs, comes up, rejects the level, and then starts to build through it. And as always, on strong stocks, the EMA is your guide. So here we go, going up 8th Street. Boop, 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 boop. And nice, really a volume explosion here, almost a million share candle. And again, these are 2-minute candles that I use right into this daily zone. I was trying to see, it does not halt up here, just really big extension into it. So this was an awesome, awesome play. Um, you know, you know me, I would not have held 100% this whole time, but you do get a nice almost 40% move from that previous high of day to the obvious daily zone that we had drawn out above. So this was nice. We do get another bounce off of this pre-market high zone back up to VWAP, and another one that we will have to watch after hours and probably keep on watch tomorrow. Really as long as this pre-market high area holds, I will be interested to see what it does. And the last name that I want to go over today is MTC. Yeah, the last one. So what do we have on MTC? Um, you know, I don't claim to be the best trader of all time by any means. I've learned a lot from a lot of people, and one thing that I have learned from others is the idea of the liquidity trap. So, Investors Underground, Nate, Sunday Scan videos, it's really where I am getting this kind of idea from. There was a similar idea on RBEN, and I guess we can look at that quickly right here, where we kind of get a failed example of it, where it tries to make the same push, where you have this really big volume on day one, very, very, very low volume. I mean, from 100 million to 2 million to 1 million to less than a million, and this one just fails to deliver. But example that works is right here. So we go from 33 million to oops, to 1 million, to half a million, to half a million, to half a million, and then today back up to 4 million shares on, and most of it coming in here at the end where you finally get this blowout. So idea of the liquidity trap is people that are in this trade from the large volume day, maybe swinging those shares, they're sized in for a day of 33 million shares. So when the next day comes and there's only, you know, 1/33 of the volume, and the day after that, half of that volume, um, they are going to have to, they don't have a choice but to move the market when they are covering or getting out of their shares. So that's the idea, just watching this kind of go until you finally get the that critical point where people have to get rid of their shares. And the pressure's against them, and there's still not enough volume, and that leads to a spike in the price as they get squeezed. So there we go. I guess we're putting a bow on this thing. We're talking squeezes again, just not the mother of all squeezes. So um, really nice liquidity trap here. This is one that I did not participate in. Uh, you know, I'm still getting better at trying to be in the liquidity trap. I did try yesterday on REBN and ended up stopping out even. I got in average a little bit above 350. It was after this candle down and it got absorbed. I just market bought it, and so I was probably up here 355 almost, and then was hoping to get that kind of continuation move, but once it came back to my price, broke this long-term trend line, I got out. So all that to say, liquidity traps still something I am working on in terms of how to best get in and try to capture the move off of it. So um, yeah, I think that's it in terms of what I want to talk about. Hope you guys stayed safe. Hope you did not chase these names out of the open. If you played them in pre-market, congratulations. I'm sure you made money on them. And then, it's a good day to reflect. I'm not going to tell you how to think, but reflecting on how, when the market is unusual, how do you want to attack it? What we saw here today was the best real setups stayed the best setups, where you get your mind kind of taken away from the main focus, where you start, trying to chase. You're getting FOMO. You're seeing, you know, this guy, that guy, the other guy, made this much money on it pre-market. This person's tweeting about it. Um, Maybe those are the names that you need to stay away from. Focus on what you know how to do. Focus on how you can control your risk. Focus on your setups, and do your best to treat it like a normal day. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe if you want to see more. We will be at this every day. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for episode 15. Have a good rest of your day.